Hello, we are here today at office hours with our colleagues Jennifer and Izzy. So Jennifer is very experienced in the rental space, and she is helping answer some questions about how it all works. So Jennifer, you were talking about um, how rentals in Manhattan under a certain price point, say under $2,500 a month in Manhattan, south of Harlem,
Yes.
perhaps, is very different versus $2,500 a month in Brooklyn.
Yes.
Can you please elaborate on your experience?
Sure. So the thing with rentals in Manhattan under $2,500, you have a limited amount of them. So the competition is really tough, and it becomes like the wild, wild west, finding that perfect apartment and getting the boards to approve them. And then the reason I say co-op boards is very specific, and condo boards is because most older apartments in Manhattan are co-ops. If they're over 2,500, they're probably a luxury building. They're not a co-op.
Yeah.
So you do have this co-op board process your client would have to go through. The client expects a lot, the co-op board expects a lot. One big thing is you want to, when you get an inquiry, you want to get your client on the phone. And you want to ask them as many questions and get all the information out of them. You want to see if they're a student. You kind of want to guide them on the co-op board process before even taking them out to it, because the fees are higher. And they might not want to pay $350 for an application fee. And there's so much competition. So most of the time, when a broker gets a listing, they will not process more than one application at a time. But in the case that they do, you don't want to put your $350 up front and knowing that you might not be that one chosen. So you definitely want to fill out your client, get them on the phone. If you can't get them on the phone, or you can't meet them in person, don't run around for them. It's kind of like dating someone. If they can't pick up the phone and talk to you,
It's a bad sign.
Yeah.
They're working with 10 other brokers.
10 other brokers. They're like, there's a lot of people there.
Or you commit to talking with them.
Not committed. Yeah, you should. Well, maybe not run, but definitely don't spend too much time. So you want to ask all these questions. You can't, it's illegal for us to ask the income. However, you give them the information. You need to make 40 times the rent. Are you at that level? And they'll say yes or no. That's it. They're expecting a credit score of 680. Is that cool? And they'll answer you yes or no. So you give them the criteria, and that's how you get the answers of what you need and see if it's even worth taking them out. And then you want to also call the real estate agents who have those listings, make sure they're available. Ask them more questions about the on-board package. Ask them if they can send you a copy of it and send you the information on it, and then you send that to your client. You just want to make sure you're not wasting your time, the client's time, and even the other agent's time. And you want to make sure when you take that client out, you impress that client by showing them the best product that they actually qualify for. So, it's very important with listings under 2,500 just to have that information, because like I said, a lot of the buildings under that price point are co-ops or condos.
Interesting.
So,
and would you say that it's harder to get listing brokers or even management companies to pay you as the tenants broker for properties in that range?
I don't think it's hard to get them. You just have to. It's just so many other brokers trying to get it.
Right.
So you have to, let them know you're going to do all the work for them and impress them. Go dress up. Go meet them. And come with all the information. Explain that Look up the comps in the area first. Look up what all the other rentals are renting for in the building, and if you can find pictures online, because one apartment might rent for a lot more because that owner has put so much into it. Okay. So the person who lives in the apartment that's the same, that didn't do anything to theirs, can't expect the same amount. So you want to make sure you give them something that's reasonable. Don't say, oh yeah, this one rented for $3,000, yours can too, knowing that it probably wouldn't. So be fair.
Interesting. And what would you say on the listing agent side? perhaps starting with open listings, which is a bit of a wild west. What would you recommend? Are there any particular sites that you pay that accept open listings that are good?
RentHop is pretty good.
RentHop,
RentHop, because you pay for a certain number of credits, and you don't have to continuously pay monthly. And those open listings kind of stick; they stay there.
They stay there.
So, especially a lot of luxury buildings are open listings. Glenwood,
yeah,
it's a huge management company in the city. Throw those on your, just. And a lot of times they allow you to use their photos. They prefer you to use their stock photos.
They prefer you.
They prefer you
instead of taking your own.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So.
But doesn't that I've heard that doesn't that make your listing not stand out because all the other brokers are using the same photos? I've heard some say that you should try to take your own nice photos.
I've heard that too. However, if it's a new luxury building or a Glenwood like luxury building, which is not new, but something that's updated all the time, because they would prefer for you to use their stock photos, it's probably safer. I'm not saying Glenwood does, but a lot of management companies do prefer it. It really comes down to how you describe it.
Yeah.
And make sure you're using a correct floor plan. Just don't pull a floor plan.
Yeah.
And then you get there and you get to the building, you get your appointment, and now you're showing, let's think about a $10,000 apartment. You're showing a client a $10,000 apartment, but it's not the layout that you're advertised. So now he's gonna have no trust in you. And you just lost a $10,000 commission because you had the wrong information. So make sure everything is correct.
So definitely the floor plan, it seems like what's important is rewriting the listing.
Definitely rewrite. Do not copy anybody else's. Talk about the neighborhood, talk about the transportation system, how many blocks, do your own research, know the neighborhood you're showing.
Yeah. And then it sounds like you would suggest making the process easier. Instead of going to there and then, taking your own photos, just use the management stock photos.
Use the management stock photos.
Interesting.
But they don't, there are some open listings that, might not have it. They're like newer, these little.
Where the landlords don't bother.
And then right. So you might have to go in there and get photos yourself, and they're not going to get you photos unless you bring in a client. So here's an opportunity to take photos too. Is if you have a client who's interested in you, able to go in there and show the client, take photos. Even if that client doesn't want to take photos for yourself, so you'll have it and archive those photos so you'll know exactly what it is.
Yeah. Very interesting. And how about I've heard Naked Apartments is another site that accepts open listings.
Naked Apartments, rent lease.
Rent lease?
No, rent.
Rent break.
No.
Lease break.
Nope. Links. Yeah, rent links. Sorry.
Rent links.
Yeah, that one accept open listing. So Naked Apartment, rent links, and RentHop.
And RentHop.
And those.
And then this big network of Zillow, Trulia, StreetEasy, Hot Pads. That's $3 a day and exclusive listings only now.
Yes. Hot Pads I kind of wouldn't.
Yeah. No.
No. Not me personally, but you could. Because there's so, Craigslist is also good. I mean, not for necessarily open listings, but Craigslist, if you have an apartment that is the landlord wants to just move this apartment and he's letting you price it really low, put it on Craigslist. Because everybody still goes to Craigslist for apartments.
They still go?
They still
even
go there.
In 2018?
Yeah, they still go there. So definitely put it on Craigslist. But you can't don't put something that's like $5,000 in there. It has to be like a 1-bedroom in the Lower East Side that's actually a great size and it's $2,000.
Super cheap.
That's super cheap, but that's what people on Craigslist are looking for.
So people still go on there.
Crazy deal, you have to pay for that, but it's still worth it. It'll move fast.
Yeah, interesting. And that's probably no advertising at all. Interesting. Okay.
Well, you do have to pay for. You will have to pay for it on Craigslist. I think it's like you purchase a certain amount of credits similar to. And I could be wrong, so everybody check.
Yeah. Of course.
Definitely.
This is just a discussion. This is just a discussion.
Yeah.
Please do your own homework, of course.
If anybody has any corrections or definitely chime in and I can learn from you as well. But That's from my experience, taking people out.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to advertise those super expensive apartments. I one time had
that are open listings even?
Open listings.
That are expensive.
That are expensive. I one time had a client contact me for a $10,000 apartment in Brooklyn Heights. Forgot the name of the building. And yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, serious. I met him
Open
there.
listing.
Open listing.
Open listing.
So many open listings.
Wow.
So many open. Glenwood apartments are open listings, and their apartments are that high. There's so many $10,000. Yeah.
That's insane.
It is.
Yeah.
Alto 57. There's so many. Advertise them, and people rent them. You're gonna have somebody who wants to show you. The biggest thing you do not want to do when you get a client like that, you're super excited. They said, "Can I see it today?"
Yeah.
No.
Why's that?
Because you have to check with management first to confirm that apartment is still available and that they're still showing it. Ooh. Unless they contact you early in the morning and you can confirm that they're still showing it and you can confirm that someone is going to be able to show you, then you say yes. But do not immediately say yes. Say, reply back nicely. Say, "I would love to get you in today. Please, get some more information from them." Say, let me just contact the management office and make sure they have plenty of time for us to check out the whole building, the apartment. Make it seem like it's going to be this amazing tour, and which it should be actually, and that you want to allot the right amount of time for them. But don't just say, "Yeah, I can show you today," because if you can't, you can lose that client forever. So be honest, check, and make sure you can get in.
Exactly.
And I'm speaking from experience.
Now, Jennifer, I have a quick question, and Izzy, you're next on this. For just to take a step back, for newer agents who are new to all of this Wild West, this rental world, when they see a listing that is that is able to be put as an open listing, it's posted by a landlord management company, but they search for the address online, and presumably if this client searches for the address online, they often will see that it is listed on, for example, StreetEasy or any other public site as no fee. That becomes very awkward in my opinion, as, for example, a new agent. How do you deal with that conflict?
Want to take it easy? In that situation, you do not want to put the address. So when you're listing the beautiful buildings, you don't put the address down, but you do put the location, and you talk about the neighborhood to the T.
Really?
Don't hold information about the neighborhood from them. You talk about the building itself. I recommend going to the building. They give broker tours, so go see the product you're advertising.
Right.
And when the client calls you and say, "Hey, where is it located? Where can I meet you?" You can say, "Listen." You can tell them the truth. You can say, "The address is here. Make sure you build a rapport first with them, and give them the address, and then meet them there. So you want to meet in a Starbucks right next to it. You don't want them to kind of go in there because the biggest thing is you have to walk in there with that client. That client cannot speak to management without you first, because else you're out of
there.
So definitely make a call the management office and make an appointment with them. And let them know that you're the broker who's going over this client's name. And give them the client's information completely. That kind of helps.
So, would there be any situation where you would, provide the client the address? Like if it was a fee listing, if it didn't say no fee, which I assume would be quite rare.
Right.
Does that actually happen? Where then you can just tell them the address?
If it didn't say no fee?
Yeah, on public websites.
Oh yeah, you can tell them the address. Everybody does things different. I was told to not give up the address when I'm taking someone to a fee. Ever. To just meet them at a Starbucks next close to it, and walk over to the places with them. So what's helpful is that you have a what do you call those programs?
A showing agreement. A very simple showing
agreement. So you write down all the addresses you're taking them to, all of them, and then you have them sign it, and you can even scan a copy over to yourself, so in case you lose it.
Yeah.
And this is hopefully your proof that you showed the client this apartment, and it also helps even with management. Most management offices are great. Two Trees is amazing.
Yeah.
There's so many.
They're not out there to screw brokers.
No, they work with the brokers. They want brokers to bring clients over.
Yeah.
They count on us. They rely on us to do that.
Yeah.
That's why they're constantly sending out, information, open listings to us and saying 1 month OP. Some brokers are even paying 15%.
15%.
15%. I think the Landmark downtown Brooklyn is paying 15% OP.
Wow.
At least they were.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, what's really important, make sure that they are paying the OP, because sometimes
OP is owner pays.
Owner pays, sorry. So yes, make sure the management company is paying the broker's fee, that 1 month's rent, or 15%.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. How about some of these open listings you see where it'll say no fee on Street Easy because management's gone ahead and just posted it directly.
Right.
And on Nestio, when you search it, it doesn't list any owner pays, any 1 month, like no incentives. Nothing is listed.
So that, that's a little bit trickier, because I've taken clients out to places where the broker would say in front of my client, oh, there's no fee, you work that out with your broker. And you're like boiling inside, like there was no point for you to say this.
Yeah, how rude, yeah.
Yeah, it was really rude. So you really, that's why I said it's so important. Don't just talk to your client on email. Get them on the phone.
Right.
Build a connection with them.
Right.
Or meet them at a place that, you can sit down and talk and go over things with them. So that way they trust you, and they're not going to screw you.
Right.
Not to say that they're not going to screw you, but they're not going to. If you show them the listing, they're going to try to work with you. They might say, "Oh, Jennifer, I would have found this on by myself. I would have had no fee." And I said, "Actually, yeah, it's no fee had you come here by yourself. And if you decided to walk away from me right now, you very well could. I would hope you wouldn't. And they won't do it though. Most clients, if you have built a relationship with them, they will not do them. They say, well, can I pay you a half month fee?
Right, they might negotiate.
They might negotiate with you, because you're still the one processing the application. Now, if it's a revenue broker, especially, that other brokers still should recognize you. And if you brought the client to them, you're supposed to process their application.
Right.
So, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they can go straight through.
There are protections, especially if they put a co-broke as well.
Yeah.
Typically 7.5% to us.
Exactly. So, and you can tell the broker, say, listen, it's a new, since they're not charging a fee on their end, I definitely want to charge you the full fee. Just, 7.5% is fine. You tell them that, or 1 month, which is essentially 1 month's rent. So, there's ways to deal with it. It's no 100% proof that it won't happen, but.
Yeah. And is that the same then when you see a listing that says CYOF, which is collect your own fee?
Collect your own fee. That's the same thing.
Exactly.
They're getting paid from the owner.
So the owner's probably paying the listing broker, if there even is one, say 1 month, and then they say collect your own fee. So usually the tenant's broker, it's the same thing. If you ask your tenant client to, hey, I'm not getting paid anything, can you pay me 15% or 1 month, whatever you can do.
Right. And sometimes they don't. I had one client, these two young ladies I was taking out for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we finally found an apartment with no fee. They knew it. They chased me down to pay me my 15%.
Oh,
literally.
Some people feel like they owe you,
And that apartment was almost $4,000.
Wow.
They had no problem. They literally chased me down.
Wow.
So, it's I don't think you should worry about that. I feel like if you're not honest with the client, that makes things worse. Yeah. So just be honest with them. And you're trying to dance around that no fee. Just say, hey, no, actually, it's no fee if you found it through them and dealt directly with them because I took you out. I'm supposed to collect the fee.
Yeah. And they sign something.
Yeah. And they sign. And try to get them to sign. But if they don't sign, It's like, a lot of times they don't want to sign. I have trouble signing stuff. Like, what do we sign that for?
It comes back like Jennifer said in the beginning, relationship, trust.
Build a relationship. Get them on the phone. You have to talk to them.
Let's talk about this real quick. So, if you were to syndicate an open listing right now, you log on to whichever system you're using, GoTMX, Nestio perhaps, which is pretty popular, what we're using in this example. So you log into Nestio, you filter by landlord listings, and then you find one, say that's higher dollar value, that's $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, and it's an open listing. You filter by only open listings, and then you go in and then you edit the photos and descriptions, which you should do anyway for it to show up. So you edit the listing description and photos, rearrange them perhaps, and then you hit syndicate. And so when you do this, there's a button that allows you to choose to syndicate the listing as either a no fee or a fee listing. What do you do?
For open listing, you're going to syndicate it as a fee. I mean, are you unless you're running around for free? I mean, it's all depends on your.
If you want to work for free, so obviously. So that's interesting. So then, if you were to do that, let me just ask you this: so if you were a tenant and you Google the address, again, I suppose the point is these are on sites where there is no address being posted, so that would never happen.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
If it's an open listing. You're not posting the address because ever. You only post the exclusive addresses. So
that's a crucial point. Please explain that again. That's a crucial point.
Only time you can put an address is if it's your exclusive listing alone. Other than that, you should never ever put an address ever.
That is massively important, I think.
Because you can actually get in trouble for that, right?
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken, because that's why we have people sign exclusive agreements. Because you're now advertising someone's apartment without their permission.
Well, that is especially the case with other brokers. So that is something we always point out. If another broker is the exclusive listing agent, you should obviously never. That's not an open listing. I mean, you should never and you won't be able to on STO, for example, to syndicate that listing anyway. So it would only be a landlord building that you can syndicate in the first place. At least through our systems.
Yeah, and also there are landlords on Street Easy that don't advertise their apartments. So and they have their addresses on there. There's no broker involved. You can't put those addresses out either. Even though there's no exclusive contract signed with another broker, you still did not get permission from that owner to advertise their apartment.
Interesting.
It's not an open listing. This person is putting their own unit on Street Easy.
Right.
They're not using a broker.
Individual owner,
They're not using a broker.
Right.
You still can't do that.
You're referring to more of a for rent by owner type situation.
Rent by owner. So it's the same, rent by owner or exclusive agent listing, you can't advertise it. The only time you can do that is when it's an open listing, and because it's an open listing, you will not put the address down. If you do, I mean, that's on you. You're shooting yourself in the foot too. So
that is the key lesson. Never put an address for an open listing. Wow, this is a very helpful lesson, guys. Let's just pause it briefly to see if we can collect any further questions, and we'll take it from here.
Oh, sure.
So you had one client that had an aggressive pit bull.
Pit bull, and the client was explaining to me that, Jennifer is not, is a mixed breed, but the vet is taking a long time to send me new documents. So I said, well, who's your vet? And I called them. I called them, I said, hey, I'm the agent, I'm working with so-and-so client, their dog's name is this, and I said, I really need the paperwork because there's an apartment that they want to get into, and I want them to lose the apartment. Can you send me a PDF quickly with the correct breed on there? And they sent it right away. And she was like, thank you. Because sometimes, the clients are so stressed out, they might approach a situation a little bit differently than the broker would or the real estate agent would, and you just want to go in there with that calmness to the vet and whoever, and give them a reason behind why they really do need this. And that's it. And that's part of the reason a client to stick with you. You
Yeah.
just try to go above and beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, you're really adding value.
Yeah.
Now, quick question for you, Jennifer, on this. How would you summarize the process of a rental for all the way from, perhaps the closing process, the quote-unquote closing process or lease signing process? How does that work?
So it works very different for so many degrees. Depends on if you're working with a residential home and you're doing one of our New York City leases that we download ourselves, or the other broker has. If it's not your own exclusive listing, you make sure you have all the forms, lead-based forms, like the essential
standard forms
for a lease. And then there's a difference between that process and then dealing with the luxury buildings, which is beautiful. Because they just walk in there and you're literally just taking them in, showing them a tour of the neighborhood and the building, and the management office handles it from there.
They handle it
from there.
Now, how about the application though? Like, don't they?
They handle the application too. Sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes, not all the time. So let me step back a little bit. Depends on the building.
Yeah.
So let me break it down. There are. Let's start from the ones where there's like a minimum amount of work to do.
Minimum.
So you take, for instance, 2 trees.
Which is what?
There's a big, huge management company in Brooklyn. I think they have. They might have something in
Williamsburg.
In Williamsburg, yes.
Just put another one.
Yeah. So they're awesome.
Yeah.
Love working with those guys. They're amazing. Everything is done on the computer. Like even down to running the client's credit. Like they go in there and do everything on the computer. And all you have to do is get that client in there, walk through the tour with the client, which is so important, and show the client the neighborhood. I think it's important to walk around the neighborhood with them, show them the new cafes grocery stores, and the management office does everything else. You send an invoice to the management office for your OP. Now, the thing is, OP meaning your broker's fee.
Paid by the landlord.
Paid by the landlord. So what's going to happen with that is you have to give it at least 1 month. And when you don't see your check after 1 month, you're going to follow up, like constantly.
Interesting. I have heard and seen that these guys are notoriously late.
Yeah, right? You have to follow up and keep all your paperwork. Remember who you spoke with when you were there. Send them an email after sending your invoice immediately. Send your invoice immediately. What you need to send your invoice though is a copy of the lease. So you can't invoice them until the lease is signed. So keep in contact with your client, obviously, and make sure you know when the lease is signed. And as soon as that lease is signed, management is supposed to send you a copy, and you use that to create your invoice.
And you don't sign and then you submit for them.
Yeah, you have to submit with the lease.
But you don't do the application at all, so you literally just show the person the apartment, this luxury building, that's it?
That's what that company is with the
easiest
two, with the 2 ones, I did 300 actually. Yeah, that's what that one. Now, there are other ones that you do have to, do the application yourself. They do that, sorry, not the application, they do the application there, and then you collect all the information. You do a package talking about your client. You always do an intro letter to your client. That's why I said you have to get to know your clients and talk about them. And you just tell them, how amazing they are. Even though they got their apartment, you still introduce them and, put all the information in order, list everything that you have in that package in the order that the PDF is in. Email it to the management office. The application part is normally done at the building, but you just need to now send the documents over, W-2s, income tax, returns, last 2 pay stubs, last 2 bank statements, photo ID, which is normally your driver's license, your passport, and letter from your employer if necessary, whatever they need. Make sure everything is there. So that's one process. So that's like the middle part. The next one is where you have to do all, the lease, download the lease yourself. Everything, and then you do the process I just spoke about, last 2 months. And you also have to run a credit.
Yeah. So this is for like an individual condo owner who is like not a professional and just wants your help renting their apartment.
Yes. Yes. But or like maybe a condo. Well, no. Let me go back. Not a condo owner. We didn't go there yet. This is
like
a
single family.
This is a single family house or a multi-family house where they're renting out a apartment.
Right. Non-professional, basically.
Yeah, not professional.
Yeah.
Now that's one step. The one that has the biggest process is a co-op condo, because now there's a co-op package you have to prepare, condo pack, it's almost like they're buying a sublease application, and it's just a little bit more steps you have to do and make sure your client hangs in there with you, because that's a process that takes a while. Sometimes it can take like a month.
You have to get co-op board approval for a co-op.
Boards, sometimes co-op boards take a month to meet, in the summertime it's even harder,
So that obviously is the longest process, similar to buying, the whole process.
Exactly.
But just to step back real quick to the second to last one, where it's a multifamily property, perhaps 3 or 4 units, they're renting out one. The landlord, is not this huge, like 2 trees or whatever, or like, some huge corporation that is owning a massive 20-story building. It's a small or perhaps non-professional landlord, in which case, let's go back to doing everything as you alluded to.
Yes, you have to do everything, so they expect you to run their credit, So, since I've been here, I haven't had that task to do that, so I would have
it's infrequent.
Right, so, you have to do everything to present it to the landlord.
And the landlord just sits back and accepts or denies it.
Or denies it based on everything that was presented.
Now let me ask you this, with leases and such, and because in New York, lawyers, at least in buying and selling, lawyers are required on both sides, because New York is very strict about the quote-unquote unauthorized practice of law by real estate agents. So we always have any legal documents, very strict in sales, there's always a lawyer on both sides. Now, in this scenario where it's a non-professional landlord and there are lease agreements, how do most people approach it? I mean, do tenants actually have a lawyer is there a lawyer drafting this lease?
No.
So tell us off the record how it normally works for most agents, not necessarily yourself, but how most people in the industry do it.
Well, I think for most people in the industry, there's never a lawyer. I haven't dealt with a client where there needs to be a lawyer involved. Although I would probably love to, because that's probably one expensive apartment. So, there's, the lease agreement that you sign is normally.
It's a standard.
It's standard. There's two leases we use in New York City.
Well, what are they? Is it the Bloomberg lease? We can pause it 1 second so you can find it. Alright guys, so we're live again, and back to when we were talking about if a non-professional landlord is renting a place, they expect to sit back and they expect the broker to do everything, including get the lease to them. And Jennifer mentioned that there were a couple of industry standard leases. My guesses would be either a standard revenue lease or Bloomberg, BLUMBERG, so they are a online repository of all different types of legal agreements, quite standard among lawyers. So my guess would be either that or some other, maybe the New York Bar Association.
Yeah.
You can ask the owner.
Ask the owner and then ask them their preferences. What did you use before? Were you happy with that one?
Yeah.
Would you like for me to show you a couple of other leases popular today? Give them options, and that's another good way to get the listing to you.
And then, so what typically happens? Say there's a standard Bloomberg form. Does the owner kind of just be a lawyer by themselves and just kind of fill it out, or do most of them hire their family lawyer to fill it out for them, or how does that work in practice?
The lease, I've never experienced someone using a lawyer to sign a lease.
For a rental?
No, I've never experienced that.
In residential, just to be clear, commercial leases are much more complex.
Commercial leases,
way more complex.
I haven't done it.
But for residential leases that are 6 pages versus 46 pages for a commercial lease, so you're saying most of these owners kind of just wing it and just fill it out themselves.
Yeah, because it's pretty standard and it's
not negotiable really, right? There's no negotiating back and forth as in a sales contract, so you don't really need a lawyer.
Right.
Okay.
And you're not purchasing. Yeah.
Right. It's not so serious.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Serious, but it's not like. It's not a lifetime agreement.
Understood. So guys, this is just off the record, and not saying this is something that anybody here does, but a perspective on perhaps from someone seasoned on what actually happens on the ground by most industry participants. So then the lease is negotiated, and then what's next? I mean, you pay the $50, or you charge $50 to the tenant and run their credit, or how?
The client normally pays for their credit check. They always pay for their credit check.
The tenant pays for the credit check.
So you tell them you charge $40 just then?
Well, it's normally done online, and sometimes the owner would prefer to run the client's credit themselves. Sometimes the owner runs a background check. Now, background checks is something the owner definitely does on their own. I don't know of a broker, agency who's ever, had to run a background check. But at least with your credit check, the nice thing about it, I want to say that a regular credit check will bring up a housing court. I'm not sure. You do want to run a credit check.
A housing court
charge against a tenant, because that's what they're looking for. They want to make sure you're not in delinquency and you don't have any housing court on your record. So you have to definitely run a credit that pulls all that information. And
I believe that actually might be a separate check, a housing court check, and that's probably done by the landlord along with the background check separately.
Not necessarily. So it depends on I guess it would depend on your brokerage firm.
Oh, I see.
And some brokerage firms has all that included, where the housing court does come up on their credit check. So it's a matter of asking the landlord what they prefer and find something that works for them.
Sure.
And make sure it's something that does run up the housing court records, because that is something your landlord is going to appreciate you. Because you don't want them to hate you. Because you don't want to put a client in there and you didn't do your proper due diligence, and then they are so unsatisfied with the client, and then they write a review about the firm and a review about you. Like, this is your livelihood. You want to make sure that you're putting linking up the best clients with your clients.
Absolutely. There's a bit more responsibility since there are no lawyers involved in rentals, it sounds like. So this is very interesting. So now for the whole package, again, for a individual landlord or someone who's not professional, it sounds like we have the lease agreement that's kind of just signed by both parties. You have a credit check that is paid by the tenant. That's also presented in this package. And then, is there anything else? Is there like a simple registration form you pull from the internet, or what else goes with this?
Not necessarily. So it depends. Sometimes the owner might have something that they want the clients to fill out, or
like
just general
form.
questions. But it's you just do a cover letter stating, talking about your client, name, address, where they work, how many years they've been working for the company. That's why it's so important. I can't stress to you how important it is to get to know your client. I'm not to say you gotta know their whole life, but get to know them somewhat. There was one situation I had where the tenants had signed their lease. And the new tenant went outside. The husband went outside to smoke. And the landlord asked the broker, the other broker, real estate agent, called him to the side and went to talk outside in the back. And she did not know that tenant smoked. They had just signed their leases. And she said, I don't allow smoking in my house. It's a 2-family home.
Wow.
And so we had to have a conversation about that right then and there. So, like I said, get to know your client, and maybe you can say, oh, yep, I know you smoke. I don't recommend smoking in front of the landlord or smoking in the unit unless you get permission, from them.
Smoke outside.
But he did walk outside and smoke, but she saw it, and that raised a red flag. So definitely, but don't do it at the signing. And if but if you don't have all that info, you won't,
Yeah.
know to tell them that. So, yeah.
Okay. So it makes sense, guys. It sounds like it's more free flowing. There's no exact rules, particularly when it comes to that's something that's not a corporate landlord. There's no rules. It sounds like it's a free flowing package. Perhaps it's a application form provided by the landlord.
Right.
Perhaps it's something. Sometimes I've heard landlords say, find a rental application yourself and have the tenant fill it out.
Right.
A couple pages, something simple. Perfect.
One other thing I wanted to add in, sorry.
Please.
One thing is so important when you're talking to your client, ask them if they're working with any other brokers. Because if they are, you want to say to them, okay, so to what capacity are you working with them? Have you been working with them for a while?
Mm-hmm.
Was it something particularly you didn't like?
Yeah.
Did you not like what they were showing you?
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure like we're on the right path.
Yeah.
If they say, oh no, I love him.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you say, okay, great. So you should probably stick with him because he has access to everything I have access to.
Yeah.
You can run yourself all over the place, but if he's working with another broker and you're running around too, you don't know which one he's going to go with.
Yeah.
So now you're trying to and then what could also happen, they can show you something or tell you about a building, and then they can say, oh, this broker's taking me to this. Can you show me this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're doing it at your own risk. So I recommend asking to make sure they're not working with, a broker really closely, a lot of other people. And, just so that they're, just working with you, and it just makes things easier. And if they are, and they love their agent that they're working with, run. That's just my recommendation. You don't have to listen to me. You can try to outdo the other one. It's all on you, but my recommendation.
It's great advice, especially on the buy side as well. Same thing. There's no exclusivities almost ever. So if somebody says, "Oh, I have an agent and I love him," you should probably stop spending time. That's very interesting. So I was, perhaps before we wrap this up, I looked up a few examples on a public website. In this case, happened to be StreetEasy, 3 different ones. And this one is advertised, it seems like by an agency, $4,000. It doesn't say no fee, so I assume there's a fee. And then this other one seems like it's advertised by a broker, probably is a fee involved. This one says no fee, and it seems to be advertised by a management company. So these are what the 3 properties are. And then I've also looked them up in the private broker database, which has commission data. So this one, 240 Mulberry Street, number 14, again, so it was advertised by apparently an agency, it seems like. And here, if you take a look, it must be a broker because it says co-brokes. They're offering us half, or 7.5%. Now let's go to this one, advertised by an agent. This should be pretty standard. So this is this one. This is a standard, again, co-broke, 7.5%. Now this one, it says no fee, very interesting, by a management company. Let's take a look. 50 Battery Place. And here, very interesting. So this, it seems to be by a management company, but there is no incentive. There's no OP. There's no owner pays.
So in that case,
you can syndicate the listing too. Ironically, so it's an open listing.
It's
so
an open listing.
You could
in that
syndicate
case,
this.
That's something you want, because this is a case where you don't have to split a fee with anyone. So
you're saying it's actually more of an advantage sometimes because you could potentially collect your own fee 15%.
15%, or you can like 10%. Like you can negotiate your fee because they're not paying you a fee, but you're charging the client a fee.
Interesting.
So
because you can syndicate this listing as an open listing.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's even better than splitting for sure 7.5%.
No, because this one is also a no fee.
Because they advertise publicly no fee.
Right.
Yeah.
So I prefer
dangerous.
Right.
It's
I
dangerous.
prefer something that's splitting. And prefer to work with people that are revenue, and also check. So there was this one looking for an apartment.
Yeah.
One of the there was an apartment that I forgot the brokerage firm, and I will send it to you guys.
Yeah. No
They
need to
do
name
not-
specific names. It's okay.
They do not. Well, this one I'll send to you because they don't co-broke.
Oh.
So
Okay.
you want to know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time with them. Yeah.
They don't they
That's
will not
terrible.
co-broke with
Well,
you.
they're obviously not revenue as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then they tell you, it's like,
Yeah.
if this is a broker, we do not share our listings. Literally says that
Wow.
on their voicemail. I was like, okay, we'll call you back.
Wow.
So, definitely call the brokers and make sure
Yeah.
that they will, or look them up in revenue.
Yeah.
See if they're part of revenue. And if they're not, that would not mean that they're not co-broking, but you want to verify that they're not co-broking before
Right.
sharing your client.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Right.
Okay. Well, very interesting, guys. I suppose let's wrap this up. This has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much to the team here today. It's been a great office hour session. Jennifer, thanks for leading the office hour session.
No
Your
problem.
advice will be used, very well, I'm sure, by many of the newer guys on the team, and they'll much appreciate it. And Izzy, thank you for participating today. It's been a fantastic interview, and thank you so much.